name user that says, pay off that debt. And with that, we're going to give it on over to Draz with Pikmin 2.
Hello everyone, welcome back to GDQ. I'm Jack, I'll be running Pikmin 2 Pay Off Debt. And with me I have two of my illustrious commentators.
Hi, I'm theurbandear, or Urban. I am also a Pikmin 2 speedrunner.
I am Cap, and along with Urban and Jack, I am also a Pikmin 2 speedrunner. And we're happy to be here.
Okay, so on that note, and unless the sort of sound of God tells me I shouldn't do so, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so to briefly introduce the overall goal of this game, I know I said it before in the interview, it's about getting 10,000 Pokos as fast as possible. So that's based on the fact that the company that our main protagonist worked for has gone into some serious debt. So we've come back to the planet that Olimar got stranded on, as traumatizing as I'm sure that is for him, to pick up some treasures, which to me and you is sort of household items. So the run starts pretty aggressively with like a very strange trick from day one. So I'll let one of the commentators explain that, if that's okay.
Yeah, so Pikmin runs in general, or Pikmin games in general, are known for kind of having a tutorial day for the first day. And Pikmin 2, luckily, is the Pikmin game where we can pretty much entirely skip that tutorial day. So you're going to see Jack here whistle a couple Pikmin and then throw them out of bounds. And if you kill Pikmin, it'll automatically cause an extinction, and the day automatically ends when that happens. This ends up being a lot faster than going through the tutorial.
Yeah, so there you go. Unfortunate intended deaths. Their deaths will be remembered.
Yes.
They make the whole thing possible. But yeah, it's based on a trick on how captains throw Pikmin. So essentially they exist in the world behind the head of the captain, so we're lodged right up against the sort of edge of the world and they can't exist there when we throw them, so they go out of bounds. So the early part of the game here is really just about getting to the highest number of Pikmin as quickly as possible as we can. So obviously when you start at a low number, it's going to take longer to grow more Pikmin. So we'll explain sort of the basic mechanics as part of this. So you can see here that Pikmin seeds are generally grown from what's called an onion here. So this is sort of our center of growth for all of our Pikmin. And yeah, as a result of the glitch called Day 1 Extinction, we only start with one Pikmin because the game's like, oh, you lost all of yours, here you go. Have one just so that you can actually play the game. So this cutscene essentially teaching you how food works, so we'll take it in the same way. Pikmin duplicate by picking up whether it's like corpses or you can see these things that we call pellets, and they use them as food to essentially grow more brothers.
Right, and
so sorry, go on.
I was going to say, the cutscene you're seeing now is one of the ones that you would normally see on that tutorial day, but we'll see some pretty weird timings of a lot of those cutscenes that we would normally see on that day as a result of entirely skipping it. So,
yes. So the game doesn't really know what we're doing or what's happening in general. It's like, wait, you're meant to be doing this in a completely different order. So the cutscenes kind of freak out generally. Okay, so here I'm gonna go for a trick called Louis Skip. So, okay, too early. So the goal of it is essentially to skip one of these early game cutscenes that we're talking about. So it's Louis finds the onion, freaks out, and does a bunch of whole other stuff. So if I skip it, then that means we won't see an extra cutscene. It saves about, I think, 14 seconds, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I feel like the community sort of mindset changes on this like once every 2 weeks. How much time it actually saves.
Severe mental damage if you miss it. So, but
yeah,
but basically you can basically interrupt any cutscene with pressing start, and so most of the time you don't want to do that, at least in Pay Off Debt, but in this case you can basically interrupt a cutscene with pressing start to end the day, and by ending the day, the ending the day interrupts the entire cutscene, and so it just never plays as a result.
It is a one-frame window, so it is a frame-perfect trick.
Yeah, we didn't get it, so we're gonna have to watch the cutscene of shame.
Oh, it's a fun cutscene because we get to see the Louis eyes.
Oh, very true, very true. It's another result of the game freaking out that we've sort of skipped all the tutorial stuff, but we'll get to that in time.
Yeah, so
if
these
you're
first
wondering,
days... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If you're wondering why Jack keeps rapidly ending the day here, there's a paper bag that you're supposed to knock down on day 1 that he never does, and it has a weight of 15, and so Jack has to basically quickly cycle through the days to, up the Pikmin numbers until he can quickly reach 15. So we grow 13 on the first 3 days, and so now he's in a position to get over that bag. That's all.
Yeah, so the reason we have to end the days is because we physically don't have the resources on the map to feed enough Pikmin, if you want to think of it that way, to grow 15. So we've got to really go through the days. Alright, cool. So pretty good. I missed one throw there, but it doesn't really make any meaningful impact. So here, as Cap said, we're going to squish this bag. Takes 15 boys sitting on top of it to weigh it down, apparently.
Yeah, and we finally now have access to a considerable number of Pikmin. So you see him grabbing those 5 pellets. Those are clearly worth 5 if they're taken to the correct color. The 1 pellets, interestingly, are worth 2, even though they say 1 on them, if they're taken to the right color. So, like Cap and Jack both said, we're really just focusing on growing as many Pikmin as possible right now, so that we can enter the first cave as quickly as possible.
We want to talk about a push.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I was gonna say.
Sorry, go on.
No. You see Jack sort of meticulously pushing this egg down, and this is just to save us nectaring time later, because then you don't have to go up while you're waiting for the stuff to come in so you can grow it, and so basically, it just saves a lot of time. Something that the captains can do while we wait for the pellets to come in.
So unfortunate sort of thing there. Every now and then, the 10 pellet that's up there will not latch correctly with the Pikmin. It's not too much of an issue, but it's as a result we're plucking these a bit later than we should. But overall, the rest of the split's gone fine.
Yeah, and just quickly to mention what's in that egg. So in that egg is something called nectar, and what it does is essentially power up our Pikmin. Doesn't make them any stronger, but you'll see them go from this leaf stage to a flower stage, and the flower stage not only runs faster but carries things much quicker as well. So we definitely want as many flowers as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Because the whole name of the game is sort of making sure that Pikmin can get to places as quickly as possible, whilst making sure that you're doing everything else correctly at the same time. Oh, we didn't get the skip. We got to put 2 on there. So there's a different route for if you get the Louis cutscene skip or if there isn't. So we changed the numbers accordingly.
Right, and so normally on day 1 you're forced to collect a treasure, but we skipped that day, the tutorial day. So a weird thing happens there when you approach a treasure for the first time. It shows the treasure that you're supposed to approach for the first time, that battery. We actually won't be collecting that right now. We'll be collecting our first treasure in this area when we come back later on. We'll talk a little bit more about what happens as a result of that. Here you're going to see that the Louis cutscene we were talking about, and something is a little wrong with Louis' eyes here. Hopefully the Pikmin are on the way to see it. Keep your eyes out for it. See if you can see it.
The game, very confused. And that's understating what is actually going on here. The game has no idea why we're here, because you're meant to be all the way over to the right from where I am now. So the game has set the eyes in that position, and it's just completely losing it that we're in this area.
Lovely.
But yeah, the benefit of having this all done has sort of come to light as well. One of the other benefits of day 1 extinction is that we have flower Pikmin here. So those eggs only spawn, I think it's on either day 3 or 4, which normally you wouldn't have access to on the first day. So obviously, I think we explained it briefly, but flower Pikmin carry treasures faster. We'll get a bit more into sort of the implications of that now, but with the first cave. But yeah.
Because of this, overall day 1 extinction saves around a minute to a minute 15 from the day 1 route. Just because of how much better skipping the tutorial is, and then also the flower Pikmin literally carry us faster. So
yeah,
indeed.
Here we see Jack on his first sub-level, so he's going to be entering several caves throughout the run, and they'll have different sub-levels, and for the most part, it's a little complicated, but the treasures you can almost think of as being sort of randomly placed. So a lot of times, no run is going to look the same as a previous run. So you'll see lots of differences, and a lot of this speedrun is about kind of moving along with things and keeping up as things are different each run from another run.
Yeah, I think it'll show itself a lot more in later caves, because the earlier caves, they're much simpler. For instance, in this room, there are only 2 positions where treasures can spawn. So the only variance really that's meaningful is where the enemies spawn. Whereas in later caves, like, they can generate like billions and billions and inconceivably high amounts of layouts, each of which can generally be categorized into like certain game plans, but we'll get more into that when we get there, I think.
Yeah, it definitely gets a lot more complex in that first floor there.
But yeah, so the goal of Emergence Cave is going to make itself known pretty clear. So this globe here is what's called an exploration kit item. So these are items that essentially upgrade our captain's kit. So think of them as like character upgrades. So that one, as you can see, is a map. So that is key for unlocking the next area that we're going to be going to and sort of continuing the progression. And people familiar with the Pikmin series will be getting excited, hopefully at this point, for the carnage that's about to be ensued, because these are purple Pikmin. And purple Pikmin do not mess around. They are potentially some of the best and worst designed Pikmin in terms of like balance, but they are very, very, very useful. So they do increased damage and they have a blast radius where they land, which means they can both stun and like just instant kill certain smaller enemies. So obviously a speedrunner's delight. Their only sort of offset is that they walk and carry treasures quite slowly.
They do also have the benefit of they have a carry weight of 10 instead of 1. So you'll see this treasure we're looking at here is a weight of 101. And if you've ever played a Pikmin game before, you know that you can only have 100 Pikmin in the field at once. So you have to use these purple Pikmin to get this treasure in. And luckily they have a carry weight of 10. So you can throw 5 or 6 or 7 on the globe there and it'll get carried in.
Yeah, and another benefit of that as well, which I think you'll probably see quite a few times in the run, is that you can use one purple Pikmin to like carry smaller items all by themselves. So obviously, well, one of the goals of this is that you want to be carrying as many items as possible at the same time, so multitasking. And purple Pikmin really help with that, because you can just throw one purple Pikmin off to the side and it takes no time, but you know the items are beginning to move early. So yeah, here we're just waiting for the globe to collect, and that's essentially the end of what I would consider like the early game. I think we're getting into sort of Pikmin expansion at a rapid rate in terms of population now. So it'll go from, I think we're at 53 now, to 70, and then it'll carry on after that. Yeah, no, I think otherwise.
One thing that happened in Emergence Cave. Oh, sorry. One thing that happened in Emergence Cave is that you see that there was a cutscene that mentioned where the ship collected bugs, and didn't seem very happy about that. Bugs are actually a really important element of the Pikmin payoff debt speedrun. So bugs are not worth that much, but they are worth something. And over the course of the run, we actually usually try to get around 250 Poco's worth of bugs. So, you know, which is about the same value as a couple, you know, treasures. And so throughout the run, Jack is going to try to be, you know, getting, you know, bugs when prudent, and that's going to overall add to the global total and make the run faster.
Yeah, so it's one of the nuances of the game. So basically the overall objective, as it's getting money, you need to understand what money is fast. So some bugs individually are never going to be worth that much money. But if you can get them and it takes no time, it goes towards that total that Kat was talking about.
Right, and just in case anyone was a little confused, we refer to enemy corpses in caves as bugs or bug bodies. So you'll hear us say that a lot probably throughout this run.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because they're not really bugs, are they monsters?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So we affectionately call them bug bodies, as Urban says.
So on this day here, you'll just see, like Jack said, he's going to be growing some more red Pikmin. Additionally, we're going to be taking down this gate. It's the gate in the game that I think has the most health out of all of them. Doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, it's either this or someone in Perplexing Fall. But yeah, this will be the thing that will take the longest time. So everything else we're doing here, we're doing while that gate is being knocked down. Because it's sort of the limiting factor for how fast we can go. Like, it doesn't matter how fast we do all of this, really, to some degree. It's just about getting the gate down as fast as possible. So the reason we try and do this bit quickly is so we can use these Pikmin that we're using now, and the Pikmin that they're growing, we will then put them on the gate, and that'll speed that up. So think about it that way. We're doing all of this to speed up what's happening over there.
considering that the gate's being knocked down, maybe this would be a good time for donations while we watch Jack meticulously grow and add.
Yes, completely agree.
Absolutely. We have $100 from the Sneaky Spy who says, Pikmin is a game that means so much to me. It's allowed me to meet so many wonderful people and make great friends. Always excited to see it being run. You got this, Jack. Shout out to the Pikmin speedrunning community.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Indeed. I was about to say Sneaky, a solid bro for the whole scene. So
Would you like me to
you
do
can probably
that would be great.
Do one more. Yeah.
Of course. We have $15 from Faust's last name that says, first AGDQ I got to watch live. Had to donate during a game I loved to play as a kid. Good luck on the run.
Lovely. So what happened there is kind of chaotic, but those are called metites. They have a really low chance of spawning from eggs, and I don't know. They scare all your non-purple Pikmin. They're not usually too relevant for the speedrun, so I didn't expect to have to talk about them, but there they are.
Right.
It's a 5% chance that an egg will have metites in it, and they're usually a cause of ire and chaos, which is generally not wanted in a speedrun, but...
Yeah, even though Pikmin is sort of inherently a chaotic game, they do not help.
Of course.
Alright, so we're entering our first sort of, I would say, meaningful cave. Like, I think this is going to be the first one that actually has, like, variants that I will have to substantially adjust to on, I think it's maybe 1 or 2 floors.
Right, so on the first floor Jack was talking about earlier, there's only really 2 types of layouts that you can get, and that's the orientation of the 2 treasures. There's only 1 treasure on this floor, but it has 7 different spawn points it can spawn in, and the layouts can also, like the cave itself can also be a little different, so it really ratchets up very quickly here as far as variability of different floors goes.
Yeah, exactly. And here you can see that while I'm getting the treasure, another goal I'm doing is getting these sort of bug bodies where possible and sort of where prudent. So as we're waiting on this cross to move through the level, I just have basically dead time that I can use to really efficiently try and gather other bits. So that's what we've done there, and I think we've got maybe like 8 extra bogs
really
or something like that, 8 or 9, which is like pretty good for that floor.
Bullet Beast 1 is like the worst. Bullet Beast 1 is the best layout to have the worst possible in, because I feel like that you actually can get a lot of opportunity to farm extra bugs there.
Yes. Oh, I guess that's something we should probably talk about, huh? It's quite general, but like one of the results of the variability of sublevels is that some floors will just be quicker than others. So not all sublevels are born equal in terms of speed, but this is not always the end of the world from a speedrunning perspective, because as you say, you can often make up for layout differences in terms of like gathering bugs or in terms of grabbing extra treasures sometimes as well. Which I guess we'll talk about. Does someone want to go through treasure routing or skipping, or do you think there's a better time to go through that? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I can talk about it real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So we're basically trying to get to 10,000 Pokos, as Jack has mentioned before. We'll do that with a combination of treasures and bug bodies. However, the treasure route that we take is not always going to be the same. There is one floor in particular, we'll definitely point it out when we get to it. It's maybe 20 minutes from now. But one floor in particular, the treasures you can get on there can have a big impact. They can either be worth 120 or 60 Pokos, and so it really changes how the rest of the run is going to work, and you end up being able to skip some treasures if you get lucky on that floor, or if you don't, you can't skip anything. We'll definitely touch more on that when we get there, because we'll know what Jack can skip or not, or when Jack can skip something. So,
yeah, exactly.
A lot of these early floors, even if it's the worst layout possible, it's going to be well worth it to grab these treasures. So these first couple caves here are very efficient in terms of Poco generation. So you'll see us really grab everything and all of them.
Yeah. And the whole game's route has been rooted on the highest value treasures that you can get to as quickly as possible. So that's just a general point about how we think about where we're going. So obviously, Hole of Beasts, as it has loads of high value treasures, we definitely would come here, even outside of a sort of important item that we'll get on the next floor. So I think sublevel 4 here is the first one I was talking about where it has meaningful variability. So that bulb has one of the treasures in it over there. And there's Matites, will probably make their second and hopefully final appearance. You have to be able to read where they are. Oh, I say that. This one's causing chaos. But yeah, so you need to be able to grab these to sort of contribute towards the bug body total, because overall they're worth about 10. So on this floor you have to grab the 2 treasures, find Matites, and get to the exit in time. And then, without losing any time.
Yeah, and we use the Mitites as well to nectar the purples that we grew back on too, which really will help out with the trick that he's about to try on the next floor.
Yes.
So you're about to see what will hopefully be a boss made completely a non-issue. So we'll see here.
Yeah, so I'll need an audio cue for it, so yeah, I think it'll be about now. You'll find out whether I succeeded.
After, yeah.
Yeah, we'll explain it after, but you'll see if I succeeded in about 10 seconds, I think. Okay. Okay, sounded fine. No. Not quite. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so go ahead.
Missed the cycle. I was just gonna say, there's a chance that she will just stay there and sort of be paralyzed when you're dealing with Empress. And if she does, then you actually have enough Pikmin here to do her full life bar. Nice. But we got the backup, so that's fine. So I think that loses probably about 10, 11 seconds.
Yeah.
Basically what you're trying to do is manipulate. So she will, depending on how much damage she has taken, her name is Empress Bulbwax. So depending on how much damage she has taken, she will shake your Pikmin off, and if you can do the right amount of damage, she won't shake your Pikmin off, but they'll all latch on, and then you'll get the 1 cycle. So she won't do her little rolling animation at all, which Jack only saw one of them, so it's about 10 to 12 seconds. It's not a huge deal at all.
Yeah. Yep. I'll be honest, I never knew the intricate details of that mechanic until now, so there you go. We're learning. I'm learning with the stream. I just do the inputs. I don't know anything about the game.
It's all about her damage cap.
Okay.
Yeah, very odd.
But yeah, so there you go. So no disasters, which is good, because she can definitely like squad wipe, especially like in the early days when you're speedrunning this game. If you mess up that trick and you don't get the backup, it's actually quite hard to stop all your Pikmin from dying. Or you have to be really, I don't know, diligent about it at the very least.
It should be noted that this is the last cave that Jack will be cave completing for the rest of the run. For the rest of there will be, unfortunately, treasures that aren't worth collecting for the remainder of the caves.
Yes.
And those
exactly.
Yeah, there can be really 2 reasons not to collect them. Either they're really slow to collect, or they're not worth very much, or a combination of the 2. So yeah, it'll just kind of depend. You saw the reason we care about that cave complete is because it's about a 10-second cutscene at the end of the cave if you do complete it, and then obviously if you don't complete it, you don't get that cutscene.
Yeah. So it's only really worth that extra time in Hole of Beasts because all the treasures are so expensive. There are some caves where, so for instance this cave, there are definitely a couple of treasures that are not worth the time to grab.
Right.
And they have like an added time premium as well for having that cutscene on top of their low value, so it's just a no-brainer to skip some of the stuff. Okay, but yeah, more simple floors. It's similar to Hole of Beast 1 in that we're going to be trying to get some of the bug bodies while we're doing this to sort of go towards that rolling total. So I think that should be good for that half.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of important thing to point out here is that obviously the bug bodies that are coming in while this treasure is going in are 100% free Pokos, because the treasure is the only thing we're waiting for there, and so they're the big thing that we're looking for, and that's why they matter so much in the run, because most of the time they're completely free.
Yeah. So it's actually crazy. We've rooted the entire game on the assumption that every runner is going to be able to grab a lot of these free bugs. So it's definitely like a fundamental skill when you're learning the game as well, knowing when to grab and when not. And making sure that you stay on top of it as well. So it's a good thing to keep in your brain at all times. God knows I've struggled with sufficient bug body collection over my speedrunning career.
Yes. In general, Jack is showcasing... Oh, sorry. In general, Jack is showcasing, like, what I would say, like, typical good gameplay of Pikmin 2 speedruns. So you notice that he goes for the far treasure first, right? And that's because the sub-level is limited by how fast the last treasure you collect gets in. And so, I mean, it seems basic when you say it out, but, you know, especially when it gets more complicated, it can be hard to keep this in mind. But, you know, Jack is basically showing, especially in these floors, just a really good basic fundamentals of, like, you know, how do you approach a level? You know, go for the far treasures first, you know, get the free bugs, ensure everything's getting carried. You know, just these really clear fundamentals.
Exactly, and it sounds really simple now, because it's like, well, that one was over there, of course you get that one first, it's really far away. But then, as Kat says, some of the levels are a big, like, pretzel shape or something like that, and you're like, okay, well, what's the furthest thing now? Like, what am I going for? So it's just about making those decisions later on. And I think there'll be some more floors where it'll actually be very interesting to talk about why I've gone for certain treasures in which order, because that's one of the beauties of the game as well. When the floors are so complicated, it's very rare that you'll be able to point and say, that is the correct way you should have played this floor. So I think that's one of the things that makes this game quite special. Like, every runner has their own way of doing things.
Yeah, so like I said, there's just a ton of routing on the fly through this, and there's generally not a right answer. So what a lot of us runners like to do is, you know, share things, share how we would have played a floor, something like that. So really supportive community in that regard.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll briefly explain these new fellows that have joined our team. These are white Pikmin. They are essentially speed fuel. Like, they are the fastest Pikmin. They have, like, digging abilities which accesses exclusive treasures that are buried under the ground, like that tape was there. So having them is both essential in terms of grabbing some really expensive treasures, and also they're just what you're going to want to load treasures with. So this is a good example here. We are putting whites on instead of purples because their movement speed is substantially higher. We're talking, like, I think whites are almost double purple speed.
More than double purple speed.
More than double purple Pikmin speed. So, like, they are going to be the basis for all good play, is making sure that you have whites on treasures that are going to be the slowest back. And making sure that you manage that is, like, really important. But yeah, otherwise,
it's a really tight race between purples and whites. But I mean, I would consider whites to almost be like the most important Pikmin in the speedrun. I mean, purples are too. It's a really tight race, but
for a second I thought you were sarcastically talking about their speed, and I was like, damn, that's really rude to the purples. No. They have other strengths and other good qualities.
No. I mean, they're very much polar opposites, right? But I mean, it gives more that those two Pikmin types basically are the bread and butter of the Pikmin 2 speedrun.
They're the lifeblood. Yeah. And so that is an example of this kind of treasure we were talking about before. You may have seen that mushroom. I'll go back to it actually because the exit's here. So that treasure is worth 30 Pokos, and getting it would get the cave complete. So that's, the cutscene takes 10 seconds, and the cave complete takes 8 seconds. So that costs 18 seconds to get. And as you probably got a flavor for already, 30 Pokos is really not that much. So we skip it because it's not useful for our sort of win condition, if you will.
And obviously the choice the choice between the two treasures on that floor is obviously very clear. The other one's worth 90. So of course we're going to go for the chapstick there, and not that little mushroom.
Yeah, exactly. And I've reminded myself internally to save for a trick that is
I will remind you again.
Thank you, please do. It may seem crazy to those watching, but the importance of saving here is crazy, because this is, in normal run attempts, a trick we do after this that I mentioned in the interview is actually a run-killing reset point.
Absolutely.
So
again, here you see that purples are really borked. They just make every single boss so easy.
Yeah, especially if you know how to use them in like really specific ways as well. Like later on, there's a couple of quick kills that we may end up doing, one of which we will, one of which we may do, that if you use purples in the right way, they're just devastating. Like, the game is not aware of how strong purples are. Oh, there's actually 3 bosses, never mind, that we'll use it on. Sorry, I'm getting a bit... Forgot about one of them, which I guess we'll understand later on. But yeah, I will now save. I'm going to remind myself verbally, so I have no excuse.
Yeah, so the treasure Jack just got there, we call the knapsack, the 5-man knapsack is its official title. But it's going to give us the power to lay down, and when a captain lays down, Pikmin can pick them up, and it will take them wherever. We're going to be using this a ton. Basically, Pikmin can only carry to certain waypoints, and so we're going to use it a ton to climb up ledges and get into caves way earlier and without Pikmin colors that we should have. So we're about to see one of those here, and then afterward, Jack is going to do that very difficult trick that we call early blues.
Yeah. the bane of a lot of Pikmin speedrunners' existence in a lot of ways, but also a very cool trick. So it's a sort of love-hate relationship at its finest, I think. Yeah, this knapsack can be a little fiddly sometimes, but we got it. Okay, so there's a lot going on, so I really think there's not much point explaining it as I'm going. It'll just be a bit hectic, but we'll explain afterwards. Okay. That might have worked. Yeah, so that's a success, which is
Nice, great job.
whew, what you like to see, because that can be that could have been us sat here for minutes and minutes resetting. So the result of that is that we now have blues. So does someone want to explain that mechanic away while I just kind of end the split?
So there's actually, well, there's actually, Urban and I can tag team it. So the first one is there's actually a series of exploits. So the first one is what Urban said earlier, is the knapsack exploit. So first you had to have the Pikmin carry you to an area that you couldn't access. Then you use the scale glitch. And what that happened is that during a cutscene, you can basically drop below the scale. And that allows you to basically go out of bounds. Urban, do you want to sort of explain how like the early blues itself works?
Yeah, so after you get out of bounds using the scale glitch, you can kind of walk along the ledge. Looks pretty precise. It's actually not very precise at all. The ledge is huge. It's an out of bounds ledge. And then we kind of walk over to the area next to this blue onion. And we leap across the void, essentially, again, knapsacking while we leap. And when that happens, the game, instead of processing the captain as captain, instead processes it as a treasure. And that causes the captain to void out and go back to the nearest waypoint, which ends up being by the blue onion. If we didn't knapsack, the captain would automatically work back to the start, to the origin, which is right by the ship. So that's not a useful trick. It's a pretty complex trick, and it's kind of miraculous that we ever found it in the first place.
Yeah,
with how complex it is. But basically what it allows us to do is we get to skip yellow Pikmin entirely. So a bit of a meme in the Pikmin 2 speedrunning community, like what is a yellow Pikmin? Because we don't see them in this run at all. I
can say I've never seen one.
Yeah.
I've never seen one before. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, shout out to Claris as well for finding that trick. I mean, it's been around for ages, and it's one of the most fundamental parts of Pikmin speedrunning, I think. Like, if you think of Payoff Dare and even the 100% category, it's integral to both. So it's hard to understate, or hard to overstate how important it is.
Yeah, we're talking several minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it. No, there's 7 minutes. I was just going to point out that one thing that you can do with orange bulborbs, the guys that wake up really early, casually, that's very problematic, but we actually take advantage of the fact that they wake up super early, and we actually lure them closer to the ship, so that both the corpse and the treasure are actually, way closer to our objective, and which makes the sub level way faster. Sorry, I was just gonna point out that lure because that was
because for the most part they run faster than Pikmin will be able to carry, unless you get like a perfect load of a Pikmin, but even then it's like tight.
Right.
So it's just way easier.
This is pretty good to point out here. So we talked about how levels can be really, really variable. We haven't really seen one of those yet. This level that Jack is on now is the very first one that we've seen that has huge variance. Jack got a absolutely terrible layout on this.
Horrid.
It is awful. That's okay. It doesn't matter too much. You're still just going to see him start killing enemies on the way, and then we have to collect the strawberry because it's worth 190 Pokos.
So it's one of those where we really don't have much say in whether we do it, because the treasure is so expensive. So it's like, even if this floor takes 2 minutes, that's still really good compared to loads of other treasures in the game.
Yeah, there's just no other options.
Yeah, so you just get it, and it's fine. But now, as you can see, there's a lot of other stuff I can do while this is happening. So when this time will not be completely wasted, let's put it that way.
Right, so he'll grow some whites, and you can also collect some more bug bodies and things. So again, one of the biggest things in the speedrun is maximizing your downtime. So you'll see lots of that, and that's one thing that's happening right now. He could have killed these enemies like on his way back before he went out there, but since the treasure was going to take so long to get in there anyway, we can start killing them. He can start killing them. He can kill them now.
Very lucky stun.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't just throw one Pikmin on him.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to tell, honestly. It's a tough call.
Yeah, okay. So he ate one white off the treasure, which is actually not that bad a loss for me, in my eyes anyway.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to risk him, sort of, because that's called a creeping chrysanthemum, or we call them like mums for short, and they can like knock off treasures, but generally speaking, they're quite easy to sort of distract. If you just throw one Pikmin, they can't eat one Pikmin very well. They've sort of been designed to deal with crowds, but if you just put one Pikmin next to them, they get a bit confused.
Right.
It's a very interesting thing in Pikmin 2. There are a lot of enemies that actually just absolutely short circuit when you just put one Pikmin in front of them. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's sort of funny. There's going to be a couple other enemies in the game that work like that, so it's always fun to see.
Yeah, it's like we were really trained to deal with more enemies than we are seeing it.
Right.
So yeah, Mum's a perfect example of that, actually, like a textbook example. Alright, so this floor, pretty simple. We get this treasure, even though it's only got a low value here of 40, because the comparative fastest way of doing this floor, if we didn't get the treasure, would be running over to this gate and knocking it down anyway, which wouldn't actually save that much time to avoid the treasure, basically. Killing that snag race quick.
Especially because the gate can go down while it's being like carried in, which is really helpful.
Which is great, great multitasking in general. It's just like, oh, this is a very weird floor.
Here you'll see one of the first. Yeah, this is very odd. You'll see one of the first enemies that is going to kind of like fall from the sky. Those enemies are essentially 100% randomly placed. The treasures that are just randomly sitting out on, the ground of different sublevels, those do have some rhyme or reason to how they're placed, but the enemies are just completely random. So you do have to get a little lucky sometimes, and Jack was able to find this one using the treasure gauge, which was the treasure we picked up back in the first cave.
Yeah. I thought I killed a white by accident there, but I did not, which is great news.
Congratulations. This is a very odd layout.
Yeah, this is really weird. I haven't seen one like this in a while. So this is what I mean. This is why I think it's part of the benefit of the speedrun. Oh, really? That is unfortunate parting. I was really hoping. In fact, I was
People were like, oh my gosh, the water is pointing that way. Let's go.
That sounds awesome. I love water.
Let's do it.
So this is actually going to be quite annoying to fix, unfortunately. But that's kind of fine. I say that my heart is in pain. So here we go.
I don't think we talked about what the red Pikmin do. Their main shtick is that they are immune to fire. That blowhog, that enemy that was there, was spitting out water, so obviously they're not immune to that, and so they start freaking out a little bit, and eventually they'll drown.
Yeah, which is not ideal. Even though, spoiler alert, we don't use reds for most of the run after this cave, it's still really important because we use them for growing more blues on the next split. So they can contribute to speed there, so you just never want to lose too many Pikmin. Just because they're your resources at the end of the day, so...
Yeah, also, it hasn't really been talked about, but Jack was able to use, in the last level, he was able to use the treasure gauge, the thing in the lower right, to figure out where the buried beetle was. Because even though you couldn't see the beetle, you could see where the gauge was going up. As you see right now, Jack is not quite so lucky. Normally you actually have to kill this antenna beetle over here, who also has a treasure, to make the gauge normal. Luckily, Jack knows how to scan spawn points for the Bulborb, so we actually did already find the other treasure, even though the gauge wasn't able to help us.
Yeah. So there's sort of a risk-reward of like, I'm going to kill this Bulborb on the way, it's going to take some time, but I think the benefit of actually seeing if the treasure's here first is, I don't know, better than the sort of moderate time loss.
Yeah, and again,
destroying
just to
Bulbul.
point out, so treasures that are in enemies are essentially randomly placed throughout the sublevel. So complete luck there that Jack was able to find the right one on his way there, because it could be in other spawn points as well.
Yeah, I think every Bulbul you kill, there's like a 1 in 5 chance it could be that Bulbul.
6, but yes.
Is it 6? Oh,
There's only
There's
5.
6 of them. Oh, there are only 5?
There's only 5.
Curious.
Excellent.
I'll have to consult the notes. That's on me, guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Misinformation.
It's all good.
But yeah, as you can see, like, this treasure spawned very far away. So I guess if we were being hypercritical, we'd say this layout wasn't technically speaking very quick.
Yeah.
But overall, played fine.
Yeah, the next one we're about to go on to is the one that I mentioned earlier, which is going to determine our Poco routes or our treasure route, what treasures we can get. This is going to be the sublevel where he can get extra treasures sometimes. Other times they're going to be waterlocked, and we've unlocked blues, but we don't have any with us, so we ignore them. So basically he's going to run to the exit and hope that one of those treasures shows up. It actually looks like it's quite possible that it might.
It is possible, yeah. So we're looking for an orange Bulbul from the sky, basically.
Yeah, and
That's
the bulbors, by the way, are the frog-looking things. There are lots of different types in the run.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Jack isn't going to get any extra treasures here. That's okay. We still have plenty of Pocos that we can go for throughout the run.
Yeah, there's like loads of ways that you can finish the run. That just saves a lot of time at like the fastest level, because you can skip slow treasures. Yeah, sorry, Gonka?
No, I was gonna say, shout out to the Japanese score attacker Albert for initially discovering this quick kill. It's pretty cool. We basically take advantage of the fact that purples can slow down the eating animation, and we basically let it eat Pikmin because it allows us to basically kill the Pileated Snagret in one cycle, which Jack executed beautifully, by the way.
Thank you.
Very,
Because normally he
good.
hops around the room like a complete lunatic, and it just takes loads of time. So that honestly, I can't even understand how much time that saves. Like, I've never seen it run without it. Yeah.
We used to skip that floor entirely. So back when Cap and I started running, we would skip this floor entirely because that quick kill wasn't really found. And so now we have that. This treasure is pretty much always worth it, so we go for it.
Yeah. All right, so this is probably the most complex section in the game. Not necessarily to execute, but at least conceptually. So here, the goal of the split is to grow loads of blues, because we're going to need them for the rest of the game. Get the second globe treasure, which you'll see soon, and enter the final cave in Awakening Wood that we're going to do called Bulbul's Kingdom. So a lot to do.
Yeah, that globe treasure isn't going to be the one he's going to get either. He's going to grab 4 treasures total on this split, which is quite a few. So tons and tons of multitasking. We've kind of routed these above ground splits to death because really they're the only things that we can route pretty vigorously, right? Since the sub-levels
like
are super random. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With 100% consistency, these will be the same.
It should be noted, yeah, that we're going to try to collect a lot, mainly because this actually is our first and only day in Awakening Woods. This is, I know you guys have, casually, some people obviously spend many days per area, but, we're basically going to try to clean up everything that we want to get here in this day 5, so, it's worth for us to...
Yeah, because we're not coming back here. As soon as we're done with this, we're gone. Because it's just hilariously slow to come back to an area again, because there's a whole bunch of fanfare, cutscenes, so like, it has to be worth it.
Yeah.
And we collect almost everything in the above ground area anyway. We collect 5 out of 7 treasures, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's really efficient.
Yeah, so we collect a ton of stuff. The 2 treasures that are left, you actually can complete this whole area in one day, but one of the treasures that is left makes it really, really difficult because it's back behind that electric gate, and you can't have yellow. You cannot have yellows the first time you enter here. So I'm not going to go into the trick that's used for it because it's insane.
It's degraded the sanity of some people. Let's put it that way.
A masterful double knapsack to get into BK, to go set yourself up for BK early, Jack. That was very good. Thank you. It's a 2-part knapsack, as you saw.
That one can be quite fiddly, but if you get it, it's fine.
Yeah, BK is the next cave, Bulbul's Kingdom, that he's going to be entering.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the utility of that knapsack is being up there, where we can walk over to Bulbul's Kingdom, which you'll see later. I'm not sure if that's worth it to grab, but let's see.
Gotta do it.
Yeah,
Since he's just growing and waiting for the globe to go in, it might be a good time for donations if we have any.
Yeah.
Of course. We have $100 from your boys, aka Any Smash, that says, "Pay off debt, a millennial dream." Donating from the Northeast Smash community for Jack, who we know and love so much. Good luck with the run. It's 5 a.m. here in the UK, so if you can finish as fast as possible, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That is so excellent.
Yeah, I was about to say I've got work after this as well, so everyone pray for me. But yeah, anything for GDQA.
We got time
sorry,
for
yeah, you can
one more?
continue. Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
go for it.
We have $20 from Caro Cola that says, "I've been watching GDQ for a long time and I'm excited that I finally have the means to donate. Pikmin 2 is a fun game and I have many fond memories playing it. Good luck with the run and best wishes to all."
Lovely. I'd say like 1 or 2 more
Absolutely.
if you got 'em.
We have $25 from Absolutely Ash that says, "Hey Jack, good luck from one of your favorite long and active Pikmin 2 runners. Let's pray for good SH6 and late game. Oh, and Urban, make sure Cap doesn't go on a rant about deloading on SCX3, okay? I'm sure the Pikmin community will make a group donation later, but I wanted to get one in myself. Cheers."
That's so
brilliant.
sweet,
Thank you.
Ash. Thank you.
Called out so brutally. You've been
So you actually just saw
my friends.
you just saw Jack put his reds back in the onion, the red onion. So we probably won't see those for the rest of the run, barring some disaster. Fingers crossed that won't happen. Very unlikely. But we're not going to see reds again. We're only going to be using blues for pretty much the entirety of the run, which is convenient because we have some water levels and stuff coming up. Maybe. No, I just made that up.
Well, we do technically coming up, just not right now.
not in BK, no. Not in Bulldog's Kingdom. We do another lure just like in Sniper Hole 1 with this very active boy. And the treasure decided to launch itself back into danger, so that's excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, but it's alright, we handled it. And if anything, it gave the orange bulb some time to be collected.
Just some fun math. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna
Go
go
on,
some
I
fun
think you're
math
about to
for a
say.
second.
Yeah, I think you're about to say exactly what I was about to say. So
no,
go ahead.
go for it. No, actually,
I was just
do-
gonna say, I feel quite low on bug bodies right now. So we have sort of internal splits that we have to determine roughly how many bugs we've got and whether we need to start going out of our way a bit more to collect some. And based on my sort of internal calcs, I'd say I'm like maybe 10 or 12, something like that back.
Yeah,
from,
it
like-
doesn't bad.
That's exactly
It
what I was
happens,
thinking. I was thinking 9. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I'll be thinking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna try and let it get in the way too much.
And that
Because
also,
you don't want to pigeonhole yourself.
I do just want to point out, so again, we talked about how different speedrunners can approach things differently, but we all have the exact same number of like bug bodies that Jack needs in our heads right now. So some things are different, but some things end up being really the same for all of us.
Yeah, a couple deaths there, unfortunately. We tried to, because you can leave Pikmin in their sort of endangered state for quite a while, and it ends up being okay. But
Actually, now that you're down to 98, that's actually not terribly suboptimal because there's 2 purples back in the ship from the chance totem. So actually, might have worked out for the best there, which is breaking a lot of people's hearts to say that killing Pikmin works out for the best, but it's how the speedrun goes, you know.
Yeah,
I'm also
maybe not for the best, but not the worst.
I'm gonna blow your mind, Cap. He actually has 3 purples in the onion right now.
Oh my goodness.
He left one behind earlier, so.
I did.
Quick, kill another one.
Heck, might as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pikmin end up being pretty disposable, aside from whites and purples, so we don't worry too much about a couple of deaths here and there.
They will be gone but not forgotten, just remember that. They'll be remembered in the glory of Valhalla or something similar.
Yeah, this floor here has two enemies that have
Thank you
treasures
for
in them
owing.
again, so they're completely randomly placed. There was some clenching there, but we're good.
there were some
Yeah.
flip glitch shenanigans. There was some.
So to introduce one of my favorite enemies in the game from a pure fear and also speedrunning perspective, those are anno beetles. They use electricity, and they link together, and they can create huge lines of just electricity across sub-levels. And Pikmin really don't like electricity. Like, they don't like fire, they don't like water, but they really don't like electricity. So they will just melt instantly. So you will see in a lot of intermediate and like even lower level runs as well, just people melting like hundreds of Pikmin in like a second. Actually, wait, I'll wait for those two bodies to get in. So yeah, you can squad wipe really easily.
Yeah, for whatever reason, electricity is the only hazard in this game that kills Pikmin. All the other hazards
Instantly,
are instantly kills Pikmin. Sorry, correct.
Yeah.
All the other hazards, there's a delay, and they go through like a little animation, and like Jack said, most of the time you can save them. In later Pikmin games, they changed that. We don't know why they put it. Made it so terrible in this one. They were worried that we weren't going to use yellows, but guess what? Joke's on you, Nintendo. We're not using them anyway.
Yellows stink. I'm not a fan. Oh, two orange bulb right next to each other. Hopefully, we'll be able to deal with this, but I suspect killing one will wake up the other, which is quite scary.
One thing that might seem a little
no stun, which is unfortunate. So Pikmin loss there is not great, but I think we lost three purples, which is less than ideal, but overall fine.
Yeah, there's also there is a flower depending on the timing of everything, or you can just let it rock. You know, there's a lot of options.
Yeah, I think I'll probably let it rock.
You gotta do it.
Indeed. But worst case we can see, like the absolute worst case, you can throw more purples in the cave after this, if that was absolutely disastrous, but I don't think it was. I mean, unless it was and I didn't notice, but it seemed
good.
Okay.
That's what Juggernaut was before, you know. Go on, Urban.
No, I was just gonna say if it was disastrous, then FC1 is for this one.
Oh, yeah. True.
Alrighty.
So
next sub-level, I'm going to take off my jumper as well from boiling.
Yeah.
So I'll pass off maybe to donations for that, because we'll have quite a lot of time.
Yeah, at the start of the sub-level, Jack kind of went straight toward where treasures and things were, and it might seem a little surprising that he can do that, but at the start of a sub-level, there's a very brief cutscene where the captain is kind of like dropping in, and so you can see a good chunk of the sub-level, and so a lot of us Pikmin runners will turn the brightness up on our screens, and that helps us see and make a plan immediately for what we're going to do as a sub-level happens, and that last sub-level is one that we do that very frequently on.
Yeah, so the sort of eagle-eyed among you will notice that the game is a lot brighter on your feed than it would have been when you played it as like a kid, for instance, because we've sort of cranked up the brightness to help with figuring out some parts of caves. But generally we could figure out wider trends without the need to actually see a lot of stuff as well, so it's a mixed bag. So this is Emperor Bulblax. Don't get too familiar with him. Yeah, that was Emperor Bulblax.
Goodbye.
He is, I think, the best example of just like purples melt stuff.
Yeah,
like, they absolutely melt stuff.
That is the final boss from Pikmin 1, which we need, bombs and 100 red Pikmin. Here, you can do it with like 12 purples. No joke. It's kind of crazy.
So the reason why that happens, the reason why you can do that is for whatever reason, the Emperor Bulblax did not get programmed with super armor on the wake up animation. So while he wakes up, you can just hit him with purples, and all of that damage is calculated. Because for whatever reason, unlike other bosses, he doesn't have some sort of super armor upon wake up. So as a result, as all the damage gets tabulated, you see him last for around 3 or 4 seconds before collapsing.
Yeah. He has a very bad time. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so this treasure here is really out of the way, as you can probably guess. But there's a reason for that. It's worth 250 Pokos. I think it's the second most expensive treasure we get in like the whole run. So we're really willing to go out of our way for it. And I say that, it's not even that out of the way, really, is it? It's like,
no, it's not too bad.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're good on money, actually. So we made up that small deficit before from the later levels of Bulblax Kingdom. So that's actually really good.
49 for
Puts
1
my mind at ease. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's maybe 1 Poco higher than our sort of goal, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so now this is going to be crucial data time. We're going to need to figure out how many purples, whites, and blues we have so that we can make educated decisions about whether we need to grow more. And this is only because of a result of that minor incident with the orange bulbwurbs. But
Yes.
yeah, so I think any number above maybe 21, I'm comfortable to carry. Going with, ooh, 20. It's a hard call because we need to enter one of the caves in this area with 7 less than that. So we enter with about 13, and that's best case scenario. And having 13 purples is still good. You can still do it, but you have to be a bit more careful, and it can really spiral out of control. So I'm not sure. What do we think, team? Should I grow more purples?
I would grow more, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, worst case, we can show it.
Yeah.
But good news with purples dying as well is that we get to take out more blues, I guess, for this split. So that'll speed this up.
And he gets to, so Jack, we're now going back to the first day, or the first area that we visited. You only need blues to explore the rest of this area, and the first cave we're going to go in here is going to get us some more white Pikmin, which really speed things up. Can help speed things up, so we want them next. So we're going to see him do that in this first cave here. And the water wall here, the wall in the water is the only thing preventing us from accessing that cave. So that's probably
so
blues and cave
we've
here
basically done all of these conditions. If you want to think about it this way to help, to get whites as fast as possible. Because we've done, well, not as fast as humanly possible technically, but basically very quickly rooted in. So we got blues because we need them to knock down this gate. And then the first cave we go after knocking down this gate is a cave in which we get more whites. So that's sort of the basic thinking around why we're doing things in the order we are.
Yeah, and so you're also going to see Jack put 4 purples on that treasure there. So we talked about earlier how we skipped the first treasure that you're supposed to get in this area on the tutorial day. However, the first treasure that you collect in the above ground section of this area will automatically end the day. So we're now going to try to get a treasure as close to the ship as possible while doing other things so that we can end the day immediately and waste as little time as possible. Because if we were to go back to the normal tutorial treasure, it's going to cost, an extra 20 or 30 seconds to walk over there and stuff.
Yeah, if not more. It's brutal. The fact that the day ends is I think one of the biggest routing challenges of this game. And we've done a lot of investigating to try and figure out if there's a way we can get the cutscene to not force itself to play, but the game really wants you to take a second and leave after you get your first treasure.
Yeah, so we talked about how sometimes you can do a pause exit, so pause and then end the day to skip cutscenes. If you do that on one of those cutscenes, the next treasure that you collect in the above ground area will instead end the day. So yeah, the game really, really wants you to do that.
I'm gonna kill this guy because I think something will pass over him.
On this floor here, you're gonna see what is a buried treasure. So most of the time we can see treasures from a distance, but the buried treasures obviously we cannot. So Jack is gonna be using the treasure gauge for the most part to figure out where this treasure is located. I think it's pretty close to him here.
Yeah, it is decently close.
Yeah, you can maybe
So
get them both in this one.
this here is a good example of why purples are really good to have in quite a high number. Outside of just needing them generally, they're so much more efficient at absolutely melting enemies if you have a certain critical mass, if you want to think about it that way. So, because you can just absolutely mash throws. So here we're just putting more whites on that treasure so that it moves, generally speaking, a bit quicker. Not a huge thing, but just good practice, I think, to be in, generally speaking. Okay, but otherwise, fine STX1.
Good body collection too.
Yeah.
Yep, we got 7 Pokos from Bulbwurb in the starting area. Oh, and 2 extra as well from somewhere else. Very nice.
Yeah. This
50-50.
This cave makes a lot of casual players and people who watch Pikmin speedruns pretty nervous because there are lots of bombs, and bombs can be pretty destructive. So this floor here, you'll see some of those bombs. They're just going to be sitting out, and if a stray Pikmin runs toward one of them and hits it, it will eventually blow up, and that can take out a lot of Pikmin.
Yeah, it's like the probably the second biggest run killer, or one of, I don't know,
Electricity is number one, yeah.
Electricity is probably number one, I would say, yeah. Okay, so we're getting out of the way of these bombs. This is a really difficult... Yeah, this is a very difficult position because both the dirigibugs are loaded. So those enemies are called careening dirigibugs. And they are an absolute menace. So they throw bombs in like really unfavorable ways, and even though they're overall slow, their ability to just decimate an army it can't be understated. So yeah, they are brutal. But if you keep them off camera, they don't really get up to their shenanigans as much. So that's actually quite a big concept that we haven't spoken about before now. The way the game appreciates that enemies are there is if they're on camera. So like this guy here, he's on camera, so he'll get up to his antics, right? But if I take him off screen, you can no longer hear his game sound. And that's because the game doesn't know he's there. It's mainly to save RAM, or just like save memory usage, I think was the idea. And a second way that enemies can load as well is like, if you imagine Pikmin, like each individual Pikmin has like a little bubble behind it, or a bubble around it, I guess, that will load enemies in its area. So just because an enemy's off screen, you can't completely forget about it, because your Pikmin may walk past and then trigger some nightmare shenanigans. So this is Cap's favorite level?
Yeah, Cap, do you want to talk about this? You've kind of labbed this out a lot. This is one of the most complex levels that we're going to face in this run. So go ahead.
Yeah, so SCX3 is pretty complicated just because it can spawn a record number of rooms, you know, up anywhere between 5 to 6 rooms, which is really complicated, and it sort of just has a very wide distribution of possible treasures. So what Jack is doing right now is he's getting the gear, which is one of the slower treasures first, which is really good. And then he's gonna try to fight a buried beetle. Buried beetle is frustrating because you actually can't get stuns from purple pounds, and so he's basically gonna try to sort of set up the fight to, you know, work out for him. But it is a more dangerous fight than most other beetle fights because he just is unrelenting in firing the boulders. But Jack had a very good setup. And basically,
I had someone on fire. Sorry, go on.
No, and I was gonna say, like, what you see here more than any other floor is you see Jack rapidly switching back and forth between the captains. And you just sort of need to multitask this floor at a very high level in order to, you know, make it all right. And I think Jack did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and just to point out, one of the big reasons for that is this floor has 3 treasures on it. So it's a lot less cut and dry. When there's 1 treasure, it's really cut and dry what the fastest route is going to be. When there's 2, it's a little more, and then when there's 3, it's kind of up in the air. There are lots of different ways that you could do this that would be about the same amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was saying sort of earlier in the sort of talking about it, that's one of the biggest flavor differences you'll get between runners. So like Cap, I would probably say is better than me at this floor, or like just has it more thorough, I don't know, like thorough game plan for it, like a flow chart, I think you always call it.
Yeah.
So like he could potentially have played this better than me, or differently, or it could have worked out the same. Like he might have gone for the spring first, something like that.
White's on gear first, and then the gear gets back and use those whites to get the spring. But it's all good.
Exactly.
You're doing great. No,
I'm doing great. Thank you.
He's been
I can say that. He is the sage of that level. So honestly, that's completely fair.
Yeah. So Jack on this floor is going to grow another 15 whites. Again, super useful. Fastest Pikmin. We want at least 30 is really the minimum we want moving forward. Normally we'll have 35 though.
Yeah.
Some people are wondering.
I think Jack is doing this. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say some people might be wondering, like, you're not collecting any treasures here. Is this really worth it? The answer is yes. Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, that's the answer.
Pikmin 2 is a lot of it is setting yourself up for success, you know, and like if you're taking some time now to get your squad, you know, super torqued out, you know, doing that now is so much better and puts you in a really good place for success for late game. And so I think even in top level world record speedruns, I mean, it's just something that you have to do. You have to put yourself in a position to succeed.
It's like your due diligence. You should think about it like doing this correctly will allow you to play your best everywhere else. And like, think about it this way. We don't collect our first treasure until maybe 8.5 minutes in. So we sit at literally 0 for 8.5 minutes. And that's all just about getting yourself ready for like the chaos ahead. So this sub-level is very complicated. So I'll pass off to Urban or Cap to sort of briefly explain what I'm doing, but the stakes are high.
Yeah, so basically, like Jack said, this level is really difficult. There are lots of annoying enemies. So those anode beetles Jack has talked about before, they have electricity, and that can kill your Pikmin. The other thing here, you see the little spider things moving around. Those are weevils. They will grab treasures, and they can actually run off edges carrying treasures that have Pikmin attached to them, and that'll kill a bunch of Pikmin. There are also the greening Dirigibugs that Jack was talking about earlier that spit out bombs. So just lots and lots of stuff to do here. Jack actually got a pretty easy to manage layout. There are also poison geysers, which Pikmin can't move through, except for whites as well. So this worked out really fantastically. That was like really well done. Very impressed.
And yeah, so one of the reasons I killed that first weevil here is so he'd pick up this treasure. One of the reasons I killed the first anodes is so that Dweevil would pick it up. So that way I wouldn't have to worry about any other treasures I sent back being sort of intercepted by him. Because they can absolutely ruin your day. Like, they can just kamikaze you off the level, kill everyone, get up to just antics, lose time. Just very chaotic. So, for my peace of mind, I distracted him. But yeah, I think no disasters here. They exit in sort of a weird location, as you can tell here. The game spawned a really big corridor and was like.
We would call this a meme exit, which happens on some sublevels, and it's kind of just when the exit is really, really far away from everything else.
Yeah.
Which in this case,
thankfully, we saw it early enough, so it worked out.
The
so
exit,
no substantial deaths.
I was just going to say, if you pause, the exit is one of the few things that will actually show up on your pause menu, which shows a map of your screen. So it'll show your Pikmin locations and your Captain locations, as well as the exit locations, exit hole locations. So if you ever don't know where one is, just pause.
Yeah. Of course, there's like a tiny time tax to pay if you do that, but it's negligible. Like,
right.
I think most runners will agree having the knowledge is substantially more important for most sub-levels. Most.
So in this level there is a roaming groink, a sort of a nomad groink, if you will, and Jack got, fortunately or maybe unfortunately, hard to say, that was at spawn. So Jack was just able to sort of deal with that roaming groink first thing, and gives him time to sort of not have to worry about him sneaking up on the Pikmin as he's carrying the treasures back here.
Yeah. So the benefit is it's safer, the cost is I had to spend time killing it, which ideally I wanted to spend that time running out to these treasures as soon as possible.
The groink is
that's the sort of trade-off.
The orange and silver fish frog looking thing. It's a weirdo.
Yeah, the enemy game design, or the enemy design in this game is actually kind of hilarious. And I think it's part of the charm that people do love about this game.
Oh, definitely. And all the product placement.
Of course, all capitalism alive and well in Pikmin.
Heck yeah.
Love a bit of capitalism.
I will say, Pikmin 2
reason
is definitely product placement done right in the game. It is excellent.
Very true.
It's
just kind of cute. Charming, indeed. Oh, they're going this way. That's an interesting one.
I think the game it must enjoy it. So some fun little direction. That's cute.
So the game is decided right as opposed to left.
Yeah.
Why? Who knows?
Yeah, so obviously the path that we, and a lot of times will kind of know the path that a treasure is going to take on its way back, but it's obviously not shown on the screen anywhere. There are just waypoints put throughout the map, and Pikmin travel from waypoint to waypoint depending on what waypoints have been discovered. So sometimes it can really throw you for a surprise there, and we all were thinking that the treasures would go around the other path, but they went around that kind of longer path.
Yeah, so if I had known in my infinite wisdom that it was going to go that way, I may not have killed the Dirigibug.
Jack, save.
I will save. Thank you for the reminder of it.
Yes.
So, at our request, I'll grow more purples here, just for safety, to prevent more disaster. Normally, we would not do this, because these purples, we would have sufficient amount, like numbers, to feel safe in all our adventures, but right now, we're slightly short, to the point where, like, it could interrupt sub-levels. So, this is completely fine to do in runs overall. Like, this won't absolutely kill any newer run. Obviously, at sort of world record level, it will, but any sort of deviation from the optimal route will do that.
I was just gonna say, think of purple Pikmin as the save Think of purple Pikmin as the weighted blanket of Pikmin 2.
The weighted blanket. That's very true. And thank you for that very tasteful save reminder. That actually came in clutch. I think I felt my muscle memory kicking in.
Yeah,
which is honestly fantastic.
So the reason Jack needs to save here is because, like we said, the first treasure you collect in this above ground area is going to end the day, and he's trying to set up the can. The treasure name is the Utter Scrap. He's trying to set that up as close as possible. So if that happens to go in, it's going to end the day and kill the run, kill any loose Pikmin that are on the map. It's not a good time.
Yeah.
So that is why he saved, just in case.
That would be hard to recover from. Let's put it that. Even in like a marathon context, I think resetting there is faster than just letting that fly. Like catastrophic damages to the squad would occur. So yeah. That's just
basically here Jack is going to be setting up the cleanup for the rest of this above ground area. So we're going to collect the good above ground treasures that are available. So you'll see him partway move this bear statue over here, and you'll see on the next split where that's going to be and how it's in a much better spot than all the way up here, because you have to walk all the way around to get up to it right now.
Nice. So the reason this can be tricky is in large part because of that throw there. Despite the fact the purples went up without too much fuss there, sometimes it can be really fiddly and they'll slide down the slope, and then you're going to have to retry throwing the purples up, and you get stuck in this whole funk of like, you just get trapped there wasting time, and while that's happening the scrap is heading towards the ship and it will kill your run. It doesn't care about the fact you haven't put purples on there yet and you're a bit uncomfortable about the whole thing. It will kill your run. I think pretty much every top level runner has got an experience of like at least a decent run dying to this.
100%.
Getting scrapped, as we like to say.
Getting scrapped.
Indeed.
Luckily this has gone off without a hitch.
Yeah, so we're fine.
Frontier Cavern
in large
here.
part due to that throw going well.
Frontier Cavern here, the cave that Jack just entered, I would say is the hardest and most complex cave in the run overall. It's pretty close with Subterranean Complex, the cave he was just in, but it's still it's quite difficult to do quickly. So I expect Jack to do very well now.
I think that's actually a really interesting point. So I think keeping your army alive, or like making sure that you don't have any disasters and going really fast, I think are almost different skills. One is essential and you need to do it all the time for obvious reasons. If you have all your Pikmin die, that's not very conducive to finishing the speed game. But like the other one is a completely separate skill. Like you'll find new runners often say when they're learning the game, like, well, I haven't had to reset this time, but this SCX took like 5 minutes longer than, I don't know, the person ahead of me on the leaderboards or something similar like that. And it's a completely different skill. And I think it's why this game has so much depth. Just understanding how to really maximize that speed.
I've run several speed games in my time. I'm ashamed to admit it. I haven't just ran Pikmin 2 in my time, but I think the execution ceiling in Pikmin 2 is still just unbelievably mind-boggling. You know, there's still so much that we can all do in this video game, and I think it's what makes it fun to get into. What makes continuing to run it very fun.
Yeah, and it's why. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, and it's why the community has like been very, very, very good in terms of resources for practice. So shout outs to someone called Pickhacker. I feel like if I went through this entire run without mentioning him, I would have kicked myself. He basically created a practice hack for this game, which will generate sub-levels at any point in the game, sort of at the click of a button. So practicing this game is incredibly, incredibly simple. No going through and setting up practice saves at every single point, and that's like accelerated the growth of the competency of the community in more ways than I can really say. So shout out to Pikhacker.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
this floor quite stressful. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, having a supportive community also really helps, because we all, like I said, like we've all said before, really want each other to do well, and so we share ideas a lot. No one ever holds on to strategies or anything like that. It's a community effort in speedrunning. When one of us does well, we all do well. So very excited.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the most exciting thing I mean, it's true in some degree for the other game, but it's definitely true for this, just due to its nature. So, okay, it may pass past this guy. I'm worried about this, I'll be honest. Okay, lovely. Yeah. Easy. Plan the whole time. Absolutely nothing wrong. Okay, this is a little stressful, but...
Yeah, so you saw there, it's something we've talked about a few times, but there is a bit of a hierarchy when it comes to enemies and how you want to treat them. So obviously the best case scenario is that you can completely ignore them or unload them off screen, deload them, because that is going to take no time. The other thing you can do is distract them with a captain or a single Pikmin. That's going to take a small amount of time. And then the least desirable thing is going to be killing enemies, which is going to take the most amount of time.
Yeah, especially killing them before you've latched onto treasures. I think that is like worst case. That's where you're really gonna feel time loss on splits.
Is it back there?
So yeah, this is a kind of cool layout actually. I don't know how I feel about this. Because all 3 treasures are in different areas. So the fact that I split up earlier here is actually not good. I probably could have done this later if I was being overly critical of myself. And this will probably have results against the fastest possible time for this floor. But we persist.
Nevertheless, we have to.
Nevertheless, indeed. And the good news is, I guess we get this enemy here is called a ball bear, probably one of the scariest in the game. He can absolutely just ravage Pikmin. So I'm glad to get him out of the way early.
One of the reasons this is another very complex floor, and again, one of the reasons this one's complex is there's 3 treasures, and one of those treasures is also buried, so we really don't know where it is. For 100% sure until we find it, until the treasure page tells us that it's there.
Yeah, like I can have my best inkling in the world, and I could logically ascertain it based on the fact that we understand how, for those who caught the interview before this run started, we now understand how the game generates levels, like what the rules at play are. I don't think we'll go into it too much.
They are
just for ease.
Very complex.
Yeah, just for everyone's sanity, because it is the difference between like absolutely perfect play and just really good play is knowing how the game will generate levels, and it takes a very long time to sort of get a sense for it. And even I don't understand, as I'm sort of J-Hawk would chastise me for at various points in runs I'm doing. But yeah, whereas invisible treasures, you can work it out, but yeah, you'll only know for certain when you get close, for the most part.
Right.
But yeah, I think otherwise no disasters on this floor, and with the game plan I went with, I didn't execute it badly. So that's sort of another good mantra in Pikmin. Like, if you have a game plan, it's better to stick with it and make sure you play that game plan correctly, as opposed to trying to confuse yourself and be like, oh, I should be doing this, and like scrambling over yourself. Because that time you spend scrambling is time you could spend grabbing treasures.
Right. The next floor we're gonna see here, in my opinion, is the most sadistic floor in the in this entire speedrun. So there are the anode beetles and electric gates, so obviously those can kill Pikmin. There's also an enemy you see flying around there, that little blue guy, called a careening snitch bug? No.
Ooh,
bumbling snitch bug. Bumbling snitch bug.
So this guy.
Yeah, this guy. What he does is he'll grab one of your captains, and if he grabs your active captain, then all of your Pikmin will automatically be dismissed. But this floor has a ton of electricity, and Pikmin that are dismissed will run toward whatever enemy or hitbox is closest to them, which a lot of times on this floor is electricity. So then you have 50 Pikmin die.
Yeah, it's incredibly cruel design. Like, the best kind of cruel. I think that Pikmin 2 has a reputation amongst the series for being really, really mean to its players in like the best possible ways. Which from a speedrun perspective is great, especially because this layout I didn't even have to deal with it, which is fantastic. That does sometimes just happen. So you know what? I don't even have any skill for this one. The game plays itself, etc., etc. But yeah, it's a very tricky floor, and I think a newbie killer. Could I call it that? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Cool.
I have at least 3 or 4 emotes that originate on that floor. So,
yeah.
Very true. None of them are good. So there you go.
Yeah, they are all bad news. So these enemies are called Mammutas, and there are 2 of them. So these guys can't kill Pikmin, so they're not too scary from a run perspective, but they can bury your Pikmin. And as things are now, digging up lots of Pikmin at once is an inherently very slow process. So the cost of not killing these guys correctly is that you have to pull up like, 50 or like, God, that would actually be a very bad case, but like 40 Pikmin or something from the ground, and that just hemorrhages time.
I mean, casually, it's nice. It's gardening, but for speedrunning, Mamutas can be very, 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 very frustrating, and can actually. They're one of the most benign enemies in the game that can just like smash pace if you mess them up.
Yeah, they absolutely they nom 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 all your pace. They just swallow it up as theirs. Like gardening, a great hobby, but I don't think it's conducive with speedrunning, as you say.
Grind it into the ground.
Yeah, it's hard to understate how painful that is as well.
Yeah. So
Like, oh man.
the floor Jack is on now is pretty interesting. It is one of the few floors that we just completely walk through and skip. We don't do a single thing on this floor, and it's not the last floor that we visit in the cave either. Pretty unique floor as far as that goes, but there are treasures normally that are across water, and blue Pikmin move really slowly, and there are a ton of enemies, so they're just not worth going for.
Yeah. So here, FC7 is a very important one, or FC Frontier Cabin 7 is quite a hard sub-level in terms of like figuring out where the treasures are before. So this is that skill we're talking about earlier of like understanding how to make a rough game plan based on what you can see, because one of the treasures is buried, and you can see them working on it now, which is great news. But it does mean that this bulb I thought I may be able to leave, I now have to deal with. But while they're digging that up, I can deal with this safely and get the bodies. And then, just in time, we'll switch here, take the whites to get the second treasure, which we will see shortly.
Very nicely played.
One thing that didn't really come into play on this layout this time, but can come into play a lot of times on this sub-level. You can use the information of where a treasure is not to really help determine where a treasure might be. So if you know a treasure is not in one of its possible spawn points, and it has to be in one of two, that sounds really simple and like, duh, of course that is, but it can be a bit more nuanced than that. So that's one extra piece of information that we are always considering as speedrunners.
Yeah. So there, for instance, I saw that treasure was in the main room, so I was like, right, based on one of the rules of that sort of algorithm we knew, the score for this room, it's sort of the value every room is given for placing treasures is halved. So it basically becomes really unlikely that the second treasure is going to be in that room. And then if you check every like sort of alcove bit and there's nothing that looks like it can be buried, then yeah, you can sort of reasonably conclude that the treasure will be somewhere else.
Yep. You see he's moved the crushed can, the utter scrap, fairly close to the start here as the last two above ground splits happened. And you're going to see the day end immediately once that is collected.
Yes. Just as a heads up, now is probably a very good time for donations while we clean up this area. Sorry, I know it's been a little bit, but that was probably the most hectic part of the game. So.
Absolutely, no worries. We have $15 from Ultazetta that says, "Good luck on the run, Jack. Shout out to the rest of the Pikmin speedrunning community. We're all cheering you on." We have $25 from Ghost Kumo that says, "So excited to see Pikmin 2, my favorite of the trilogy, at a GDQ. I love that Pikmin 1 and 3 have had multiple showings each, but I feel like there was a Titan Dweevil-shaped hole which has now been filled. Best of luck to Draz on the run. Let's get to 10,000 Pokos and $100,000 for PCF by the end of this run." I think we can get to $100,000 by the end of this run.
Do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. You want another one?
Yes,
Absolutely.
please. Yeah, I think like maybe even like 3 or 4 at this point. This is all very self-explanatory.
No problem. We have $15 from Super Bunny that says, "First time I'm able to donate a little something to a cause that touches my heart. As like many others, cancer has affected my family and friends. The Pikmin series has been a part of my life since I was a kid. Love the game to pieces, as well as this run. Who knew I would have so much fun to learn this game about 300 hours into the series? Keep being awesome, everyone." 300 hours, wow.
Hey, that's nothing compared to a speedrunner. Yeah.
Get some hours in there.
That's a good start, though.
We have $50 from Raising that says, "I used to speedrun the first 20% depth of Pikmin 2 as a kid. Not anymore because I was too scared of the spiders later on in Pikmin. It makes me quite happy to see here now. Hopefully also destroying all the spiders. Good luck, Draz."
Oh, there'll be spider destruction later on. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
Got you there.
We have
So-
50. Oh, go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, feel free to continue. Sorry.
Absolutely. We have $15 from Hassan that says, "Hey Jack, Hassan from London Melee here. When I watched you starting to speedrun Pokemon and Pikmin, I never guessed you'd become a world record runner. I'm so proud. Good luck with the run and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year too.
Since world record was brought up, I do feel obligated. If people want to figure out how competitive the speed game is, I have to bring up the crazy speedrun statistic that in the year 2020, the entire top 5 of Pikmin 2 Payoff Debt all held world record at one point last year, ending with Jack Draz.
I was about to say, I mentioned it in the interview, but yeah, it's like insane how competitive this game has been this year. Like the top level's been pushed further than I think any of us really expected.
You know, there's always people who are, active and tight-knit, and it's a great community in that sense too. You know, it's a very competitive, active game even right now, so
yeah,
it's really great.
All right, well, I think that sort of rounds out everything there. So we're done now with Valley of Repose, which I think is probably the most stressful part of the run, so that's a load off. And you can see the money total here. I'm probably about 27 Pokos behind where I need to be. The total we work with there is usually 8,100. So I think I'll be able to get that just in terms of extra bug bodies in the coming levels. So I think that'll be the play. If there were more Pokos that I was behind here, there's an optional treasure that we'll run into pretty soon here that is worth 40. So that's like, I don't know, it's like a plaster or a band-aid for, I don't know, a gory injury. You never want to get it in a run, let's put it that way. Like, only use if absolutely necessary.
Something's gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So lots of the smaller above ground treasures that we're going to see are things that will adjust based on the treasures that you got on SH6. So, Sacred Hole 6, that one that we talked about, was very variable before. Since he didn't get anything, he's going to just be getting pretty much everything.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing pretty much every treasure you could reasonably expect to run into that isn't completely awful in terms of the speedrunning context.
Yeah. No
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Those runs like that are completely acceptable, like, from a high-level perspective. Even though the fastest way is technically skipping a couple of the slightly slower treasures, it's still overall very quick.
There are many permutations. I think it's actually apropos that I think what Jack is doing right now, I think this permutation is probably one of the most common, right? Where, no love nugget, no stupendous lens. I think in a way it's very apropos to see that at GDQ, but there are crazy permutations that you can come up with that are fast if you put your mind to it, and depending on the layout generation. But,
yeah,
you gotta be
there have
thinking.
been some crazy treasure choices and runs that have happened historically.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to... yeah, no, it's crazy. The variance is incredible and very creative as well. Like, I think a new meta route that potentially came up just happened on one of the world records done by Ice Cube. Shouts to him as well. Like, definitely changed how we all thought about this game in terms of how fast it can go.
Yeah, let's shout out the other top 5 runner too, who is IID, who is Pikmin 2 god. We will all kind of agree on that he is far and away the best Pikmin 2 player out there. He is a Japanese runner. Fantastic guy, super nice, and always willing to share strategies and talk through things. So really happy to have him be a part of the community as well.
Yeah, he's really come into our scene like a lot more recently, which is, I think, been one of the greatest things like we could have asked for. He's just fantastic at the game.
I also want to point out that these are why Dweevils can be very annoying from a speedrun perspective. So here in Jack handled it, as fairly well. But what happened is that the Dweevils sort of picked up the treasures and just decided to go rogue. They're like, I'm out of here. Like, I don't, and so Jack sort of had to rescue them from the Dweevils, which of course is very stressful.
And especially because they can move treasures with Pikmin on them over hazards. So I think that's something that flaw really shows. Like, Dweevils can set your Pikmin on fire by proxy. So it's pretty sadistic, but I think that's overall tolerable.
Yeah, one small thing I want to mention about the procedural generation that we've been talking a little bit about throughout this run. The number of gates that show up on floors. Gates are the lattice things that you've got to put your Pikmin on to get to what's behind them. But the number of gates on floors is fixed. So if you know where the gates are, then you're going to know whether or not there are gates in front of the treasure, even if you can't see that treasure. So like on this floor, for instance, the number of gates is fixed at 2. So there will always be 2 gates on this floor. And so once you know where those 2 are, there aren't going to be any elsewhere. And that's becomes a pretty big thing in a lot of the speedruns.
Which is why I've seen there are 2 gates here. So I'm just getting the rest of my Pikmin on there. And then getting these 2 treasures. Because I know I can do the gate in front of the exit last. Because that'll be the last thing I do. So there's no rush. I have more time to sort of get it done. I say no rush, but we've rushed the parts that need to be rushed now. We can sort of sit and smell the roses slightly. Saying no rush in a speedrun.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, Jack.
That's exactly it.
This is what you're doing. You're enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, the thing that Jack mentions about the exit as well is a lot has a lot to do with the forward thinking that we have to do as Pikmin runners, because things are so variable and you've got to plan several moves ahead of what you're doing right now. Because if you just do what you're doing right now, then it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah. So a sign that, although it may not have been the perfect way I played the floor, the sign that the game plan I came up with went well for me was that the gate was destroyed pretty much at the same time the last treasure went into the ship. That's generally quite a good metric. I'm gonna gamble the corridor. What do you think? So here, this floor we don't get any treasures, so we can just absolutely hemorrhage time destroying gates, trying to get to the exit. But this layout actually isn't so bad. And in fact, this treasure here, time capsule, is quite good. And I'm tempted to get it.
You were really low on bodies anyway. You had like 50 bodies. I wouldn't. Yeah.
And the fact there's no gate on here. So for instance, if there was a gate in front of the exit here, it may be worth it because I know I'd have to wait for the gate to come down anyway. It may have been worth it to collect time capsule, which was over there before, because in the time that's moving back to the starting area, that gate's coming down. So that's like using your time more efficiently.
So fast BLL or
no.
So the person who hated spiders, you're about to see that purple's crushed spiders.
Yeah. So they really want you to have yellows at this point, I think. They really expect you to, but purples are pretty cool. So oh yeah, fast BLL, never mind. So yeah, he was super destroyed. That is like not consistent at all.
No, unless you're Again, that is...
He's got some weird, like, homeopathy pseudoscience for getting that consistent, but...
that has to do with how you approach the damage cap and whether or not the BD Longlegs shakes all the purple Pikmin off of him while they're attacking. So.
Yeah. But that's nice. I mean, fast BLL, that's, like, not a huge thing. It saves probably, like, 8 seconds, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Do we have a consensus on that?
I was gonna say, you had enough purples to do my normal strategy, which is just as fast Empress, or fast BLL.
Oh, okay, so maybe not then, but...
Yeah, it actually, between like a super fast urban alternate, it is somewhere between 0 and 2 seconds, but it looks cool as heck.
It does look cool. He just sits there and acts really confused and dies obediently, which is honestly all you can ask for an enemy in Pikmin 2.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about different strategies that each of us has. And one thing that we kind of like to joke about is that if you showed any of us top runners a video of another top runner, we could probably pick out which top runner was like responsible for it with no other like identifying information, which is pretty interesting because, like Jack has said a couple times, everyone really has their own style.
Yeah,
which makes
it's like key to the game.
A really interesting and competitive speed game.
And it also means learning from each other is like, even if you're like slightly better than someone on a leaderboard or like someone's up and coming, but they're still not at like world record level or something close yet, you can still learn loads. Because the way they're going to play the game, they're just going to value different things to you, and they'll have different skill sets that will develop sort of naturally. So it's incredible. That's why new runners in this game like usually can contribute something meaningful pretty quickly. I think I was like in the scene for about a year and I rerouted something, and like a Paper Mario, like famed Super Mario Sunshine 100% runner, like he also contributed a route change relatively quickly, and it's just like quite a bit to go at.
The more people that run a game, the more people that have eyes on a game, you know, the more optimized it gets. And I think that a lot of us some of us don't have pride, and those that do, learn to swallow it, in the face of, new information. And I think that we're really accepting in that sense, like anyone can contribute, as long as your ideas are good and as long as the timer is fast, then, we want to have your ideas,
Yeah, exactly. A lot to go at. Alright, so last cave in the game. Unfortunately, a very stressful cave. You can see the only hazard there in Glutton's kitchen, electricity. Guess what hazard we don't have any means of dealing with in the sort of conventional way? Electricity. So we are at risk here.
The other thing that makes this cave really stressful are enemies called red bugs. You'll see one on the next. You'll see one on the next floor. But they can snag treasures, snag enemy corpses, all that stuff, and take them underground. And if they take them underground, you got to kill the bread bug, and they are a pain in the butt to kill.
Yeah,
we'll see if he's got to kill one here. Probably not yet. You're fine.
Yeah. So it's basically imagine the inconvenience of Dweevils before, but then just exacerbate that even further. And it just, because they take so long to kill as well, whereas Dweevils you can just melt them and they drop the treasure. But here they will steal it, the treasure is gone, you can't negotiate, they won't just give it back. Like you have to actually kill them, and the fastest way of doing that is hitting them one by one. And I think each hit is about like, I don't know, like an 1/8 or 10% of his health or something, so it takes a really long time.
Yeah, it's definitely less than an 1/8 and probably less than 10%. It's probably 16 hits, 12 or 16 hits. I don't know exactly. It's too many. It's how many?
It's bad. Like it will kill your run straight up if you're on like PB pace a lot of the time.
And purples don't do extra damage to red bugs for whatever reason. So all Pikmin do the same amount of damage. So that's one reason that there's such a pain.
The one enemy purples cannot just absolutely run over without thinking about it. So here we see both the bread bug spawns are quite close here. So they have these little homes, essentially. They will take treasures back to when they're stealing them. So it's actually really nice to have one, or have them both that close. Oh, I didn't kill that guy. I'm probably going to do that before I wait. I'll destroy this electric gate first, finish off that anode so I can deal with the rest in a peace of mind. And I'm aware that that blowhog as well is moving, so I'll need to be careful about that too. In fact, I'm going to do this. So that enemy over there is called a puffy. I think it's puffing or withering blowhog. One of those two.
That one is a puffy. Yeah.
Yeah. So puffing blowhogs can or puffy blowhogs can push Pikmin off treasures, but they can't push purples because purples are chonky boys and they get the job done no matter what it takes. So as you can see, the blues and whites sort of fell off the treasure there, but the purples sort of trooped on through.
Heckin' so shocker, buddy.
Yeah, they are large lads. Yeah, so they sort of just marched through it all. And I'm happy to take that sort of small amount of time for insurance. Like loading the purples on there to make sure they got through him unscathed was really important. So even if it did take like 3 or 4 seconds away from the overall probably end time on the floor. Okay, so the only thing I'm now thinking about in the back of my head, apart from don't kill all your Pikmin, is make sure I get 10 bug bodies. Or maybe a little bit more, I think. So there are enemies on this floor that I think I'm going to need to be pretty thorough with collecting to make sure that I can hit that total. Because you don't want to be a guy in the final floor of the game with your pants down and not enough money. That's embarrassing.
Definitely not.
So we're trying to avoid it. Oh, I thought this was...
We already had that meme.
Nope. Yeah.
Another fun thing about this floor, any floor with bread bugs really, is that sometimes the game will just randomly crash. It's very unlikely, and it happens maybe like 0.5% of the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been playing this a while, and I've only seen it like
the game will
twice.
just crash. And I think I'm going to talk about myself for a minute here, but I unfortunately had the luck to, this has been years ago, but had the luck to have a game crash on a world record pace run. And that almost broke me.
it made your character. It's your like sad backstory for your redemption arc later on.
This is a heck of an origin story.
Yeah, thankfully it's not something in general you should be too worried about.
Right.
I think it's something that flashes through your mind when you're on world record pace or something. But for now, I'm not worried about it. Let's put it that way. Oh my naivety.
There's also on a couple of these floors, so on this one that he just is about to clear, and on the second floor of this cave, sometimes treasures can be in high locations. You're supposed to use yellows to get them. You can actually use some kind of glitchy purple throws. Purples have weird collision so you can use that, and that will give them some extra height that can get up to those ledges. We didn't see any of those throws in this run. Hit up the Pikmin Discord if you want to see them because they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they are very cool. And it's, again, another creative solutions for not using yellows under any circumstance. We're better than that.
Never.
Never, I refuse. Early blues is too cool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is actually... So this floor, very stressful. Cannon beetles in the middle of everything, just... They wanna absolutely wipe you. They wanna nuke your board, but we are not having it.
I will say, the nice thing about this does end up being that we're toward the end of the run, so we really don't care too much about our Pikmin counts or anything like that. So he's not gonna kill too many of the enemies that are in the way, unless they're just like really in the way. Luckily, there actually weren't very many enemies at all. So
no, it's actually like
helpful.
nothing, which is fantastic.
They decided to be cool, so that's nice.
So yeah, this layout was, you know, kind. Run! No purple goes in vain. We're so close. We're so close to the end. We gotta keep our squad with us.
Dwarf polebears are actually relentless. They won't stop chasing. Sometimes if a treasure's moving slowly enough, you'll actually see an army of dwarf polebears just like chasing the antenna. It's pretty funny to see.
Yeah, basically little Liam Neesons.
Yeah.
They will do anything they can to absolutely destroy you. They will find you.
13 in bodies. You know that.
13? No,
13.
less than that, I think. Just 3. Because I need...
What number was the
sorry, you're
9, 7,
automatically
12.
including the giant bread bug, and I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Very good.
Yes.
So we collect this enemy here, another bane of existence of Pikmin speedrunners type enemy, I think. The giant bread bug.
Which,
So
cleverly,
he looks like a bit...
they've actually made bread. I was just gonna say, he is a loaf of bread. If you ever forget his names.
He is inarguably
bread-like.
These guys could be argued that they're bread. They're like little brioche buns. He alone. He is a big loaf.
You say loaf. Yeah,
And
boy.
he does whatever he wants.
But basically, so
that's
this
like
is
why we hate him.
this is the traditional way to do damage to bread bug enemies. So if you ever seen like Pikmin 1 speedrun, this is how you do it. But if they carry in an enemy corpse or a treasure, what they'll do is they'll automatically get damaged when they get sucked up toward the top of the ship. So you saw the giant bread bug is going to take 2 hits to get on there. The regular bread bugs take 1 suck up plus 1 other small hit.
Yeah, like you could just throw a Pikmin on it like here and it would confirm the kill.
Yeah.
So now I think we've got pretty much everything in. It looks like everything's coming through in the correct time. So here, if you get the bread bug in this cutscene, you can see he's died because he collected an anode beetle before, and this cutscene has sort of killed him off.
Are we gonna get exactly, if we're good, we might get actually exactly 10,000 for a GDQ.
It is maybe, solid maybe, because I think that bread bug will collect.
Yeah.
It'll die.
No, but it's fine, right? Because you need 10 more Pokos, correct? Yeah, you do.
Oh, the giant bread bug will. I meant the
you're
little
gonna get, it's the math.
one. Oh, okay, that's very neat.
Urban called it, right? Because you just don't collect that that small bread bug under any circumstances. So.
All according to plan. So there you go.
Perfect.
I think we've routed everything correctly.
Yeah.
Ended at a neat.
Time is rapidly approaching, by the way.
Yeah,
around 30 seconds from now, yeah.
So time is when it cuts to black after it says like you have paid off the debt, and then it'll cut to black, and that's when time is. But yeah, so everything went well. No resets, no disasters. Which yeah, can't ask for too much more.
Excellent.
Save on the last flip, but there you go. I think that's pretty much everything covered as well. So yeah, the game will sort of boot you out of here, but there you go, we repaid it.
GG's, Jack. GG's.
Congratulations, Jack. First time Pikmin 2 has ever been included in its GDQ, and Jack did a fantastic run, so congratulations.
Dare I ask what the final time is? I suspect 143.
It's time, by the way.
141.53 is what I have.
Oh, okay. I'm
Not a
cool with
bad
that.
run.
I'm actually happy with that.
Final
So I
shout-outs
guess,
you have?
yeah, final shout-outs, huh? The Pikmin speedrunner community, it's been a pleasure to be a part of it and to get to know everyone, and it's been fantastic. We've met up at GDQ several times. I think we're at that perfect size where it feels like I know everyone and everyone knows everyone, so it's just it's fantastic, and they're so diligent and passionate about the game, and it's really inspiring.
Yeah, I also want to do just a quick shout out to some of the old boys who have been around the community for a really long time, who have inspired a lot of us to keep pushing. So that'd be Pie Pusher, TCB Trio, and Ghostly, who I don't think we've talked about yet. So I just want to say thank you to all of them. You guys have made this community fantastic, so thank you.
And if anybody, of course, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, is interested in playing Pikmin, please find the Discord. It's on speedrun.com, and I personally will answer your questions. That's a promise. Unless, like, thousands and thousands of you show up, in which case... Oh.
I can guarantee you that when a new runner goes live, the entire top runners just bombard the Twitch chat. You know, we will watch your new run. We will do it. That is a threat. We will be in there, you know. So like we're gonna help you. So if you wanna take a run, you know, we're glad to show you the ropes. So.
Brilliant. And I think that's everything from us.
Yep. So all right. Yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you guys.
Alrighty, great job, Draz. That was a fantastic Pikmin 2 run. Thank you so much for showing that to us. Before I head off here, I have a couple of donations I want to share with you guys. We have $50 from Bobby Berm. Here's the $50 I promised from my Light Matter run for all deaths involved. Thank you all for watching, and shout out to everyone behind the scenes for putting this event together, and let's keep the hype up for the next week. Lamp hype! We have $15 from Churmorg that says, about to head to bed after staying up way too late watching Pikmin 2 here, but I'll gladly donate a bit during this run to help meet 100K by the end of this last day, or first day. Thank you so much for that. We have $500 from Aversa that says, thanks to AGDQ and keep up the wonderful work. Donation goes towards PurpleGhostKasper's choice. Hey, that's me. I'm going to be putting that donation towards the bonus run 5, Super Mario 64 blindfolded. We have not gotten near that incentive yet, so make sure you send those donations in, because I promise you that run is going to be fantastic. Alrighty guys, and with that, thus concludes my hosting shift. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and donating and just being a supporter of the runs. I am so excited for the rest of this week, and I know you all are too, and I will see you very soon. Up next on the hosting mic, we have Venbright, so make sure you show them lots of support. And now, with that, we'll be showing off some of the prizes.
All right, let's just go ahead. And do you start out with the... hi everyone. How are you? I'm Sent. I'm here to talk about the prizes. I'm not... okay, look, I was told that we really didn't need the red Pikmin for the run, and I figured they were there. I thought they were ordered for the table. It's up. I'm sorry. I'll get my own. Don't worry about it. Anyway, with the end of that amazing Pikmin 2 run, now is the absolute last chance for you to donate to win all of the amazing prizes we had in that Diddy Kong Racing 2 Pikmin 2 prize block. Prizes like these absolutely beautiful Pikmin amigurumi dolls here from Doug Reichel. Thank you so much, Doug, for sending them out to us. Prizes like the amazing Metroid Sun Catcher we have from Meredith Frederick. Absolutely beautiful. You can head over to the tracker real quick and see a picture of it. You know, beautiful stained glass piece. And of course, prizes like this incredible black and gray artwork of Samus fighting Ridley from Elias Maines. A $25 donation right now will get you entered into all three of those and a bunch more amazing prizes, and it'll get you $25 into our grand prize, which is of course $250 cumulatively throughout the marathon. So get those donations in right now, because with Metal Gear Solid 4 comes a whole new host of prizes, and we gotta talk about them because they're also super cool. So many good prizes this event. I am just so excited to get to show them all off to you. Now, from Koei's, we have yet another amiibo. This one is, of course, Bowser Jr. He's Bowser's son. Is he related to the Koopa Kids? Is he actually Bowser's son? Is Super Mario Sunshine canon? I don't know, and I think that's probably for the best. But what I do know is this is a pretty cool amiibo. $5 minimum donation. Thank you, Koei's. Now, from our great friend Puzzle P, we have this absolutely beautiful Echo the Dolphin doodle painting. It's just on a 5x5 piece of wood here. Lovely monochromatic painting / doodle with a little echo in the center. Super cool. Always love Puzzle P's work. You should check out a great picture of it over at the tracker at gamesdonequick.com. And it's a $10 minimum donation, again, from now until the end of Turok. So you have from Metal Gear Solid to Turok for all the prizes I'm about to talk about. Now, let's see. Oh, from our friend Plamato, we have this beautiful Mario pillowcase, just featuring all kinds of different Mario characters. You know, we got Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Rosalina, Toad, Yoshi, Wario, Waluigi. The list goes on. It's a beautiful pillow. And guess what? It's actually a pillowcase. So if you really want, you can take the pillow that's included right out and put it on your favorite pillow instead. It's a $10 minimum donation. Thank you so much, Plamato. From Wolf Shadow, we have this absolutely adorable Echo the Dolphin plushie. I mean, just look at it from all these angles. It is a beautiful Echo plushie. It's a $25 minimum donation, again, from now until the end of Turok. Thank you so much, Wolf Shadow, for sending it out. It's one of a kind. It's handmade. You can't go to the store and just get yourself an Echo the Dolphin plushie, but you can donate $25 before Turok, and maybe you'll win one. Super adorable. Thank you again, Wolf Shadow. And that's not all you'll be entered to win if you donate $25, because we have this absolutely wonderful Ghostbusters cross-stitch from Skater 43. It might be a little hard to read on camera, especially behind the glass, but it is a cross-stitch of the ending screen of Ghostbusters. You know, famously, the congratulations, by completing this game, you have proved the justice of our culture. Now go and rest our heroes. Shaky localization. It's a super iconic scene. It's a super well done cross stitch. It's so many stitches. It looks beautiful. Again, you can head over to gamesdonequick.com, check out a picture of the tracker to see maybe a version of this with a little bit less glare. A lot of studio lights in here. $25 minimum donation from now until the end of Turok later this morning. There are, of course, so many prizes, and we can't talk about prizes without talking about our grand prizes. That's right, grand prizes we have to this event. Both of them are $250 cumulatively throughout the event. So if you donate $25, you'll get entered into all of the prizes that are available in this block, as well as getting yourself $25 towards that cumulative $250. Now, for our grand prizes, we have from Red Wolf Networks this amazing gaming PC that is to my left over there. It is beautiful. You can head over to the tracker, check out all of the specs on it. But here's the important one you need to know. It's got a 3070 in it, and it's really hard to get a 3070. Let me tell you, after AGDQ, I'm going to go camp outside of a Micro Center for a week until I can get one, because it is so hard to get those cards right now. But it's a great PC. You should definitely check out the specs. Huge shout outs to Red Wolf Networks for somehow finding one and putting that together for us. And of course, from our friends over at Heroic Replicas, especially Dave, shout out to Dave at Heroic Replicas, we have our customized Heroic Replica Grand Prize. There's a whole list of different replicas you can choose with all kinds of different customizations you can do with them. I want to talk about one of them real quick. Of course, it's the tried and true. It's the Master Sword. I've gotten to handle several of these over the years. The craftsmanship on them is great, and they're just super fun to have around. Now, with the Master Sword, you can either choose to have a bronze hilt with a tempered high carbon blade, or you can go with an aluminum hilt that has a stainless steel blade instead, whatever you'd prefer. But either way, that's going to be a full tang blade. So it's going to go all the way through the hilt, and it is going to be plenty sharp if you'd like it to be. It'll also come with some lovely machined bronze accents, and you get your choice of color for the crossguard and the pommel. Purple and blue, two really awesome colors that I've seen people go with there. Definitely a cool prize. Again, shout outs to Heroic Replicas and to Dave for setting that up for us. And you can head over to the tracker to see not only images of all the different prizes you can choose, but info on how you can customize them. Anyway, that is going to do it for me. Remember, you can always head over to gamesdonequick.com. It has all the information you need. Click on the tracker. You're going to see the schedule with all of the amazing speedruns left in this event. Speedruns like Metal Gear Solid 4 coming up. So many great speedruns. We got a great week to bring in the new year. The incentives you can donate. for in the marathon. We have bonus games, we have different challenges, we have bid wars, we have file names. All of that's going to be in there because you don't have to donate specifically to the prizes. You can donate to the incentives. As long as you donate the minimum amount, you're going to win some prizes. Speaking of, you can also, of course, find the full list of prizes, how much you're going to need to donate to win them, and when they're going to be available. Head over to gamesdonequick.com, check out the tracker. But in the meantime, let's go back to the break screen. Let's play with that virtual crowd we have, which is so much fun as we get ready for Metal Gear Solid 4.
All right, welcome back to Awesome Games Done Quick Online 2021. My name is Ven Bright, and I'll be your host for the next few runs. So happy to be here. As we get ready for our next run, which will be Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots by Jaguar King, we're going to go ahead and read a few donations real quick. We have $35 from Jerry G54 that says, first time donating and happy to support this cause. Thank you so much. And we have a $25 donation from Daniel Whitlock with no comment. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and send it over to a Twitch ad.